There are moments when time itself seems to tremble, when the air around us grows so still that one might imagine eternity leaning close to listen. Such a moment is spoken of in this day, October 9th, 2025, when God says, "Open it, tell to no one." It is not a command for the careless, nor a whisper for the passing ear. It is the sacred trust that comes only to the soul prepared to receive a mystery. For God does not speak lightly, and when he speaks, he means for his words to find a dwelling place within a heart made ready, a chamber cleansed of pride, fear, and the noise of the world. To open it is not the gesture of the hand, but of the Spirit. It is the courage to unfold what heaven has sealed, not to expose it to human eyes, but to behold it as one beholds a sunrise in solitude, wordless, radiant, transforming. The divine message is not a letter written in ink, but a truth written in fire. It can burn through illusions, through the fragile structures of self that we have built to make ourselves feel safe. God does not give secrets as curiosities, he gives them as seeds. And the one who receives must learn to guard that seed in the soil of silence, for if exposed too early, it may wither beneath the sun of misunderstanding. There is a reason he says, "Tell to no one." For not all ears are prepared to hear what has been spoken in the secret place. There are mysteries that cannot be shared without being diminished. When divine truth is still warm from the breath of heaven, it must be allowed to rest in the quiet of contemplation. Only then does it mature into wisdom. If spoken too soon, it becomes argument, pride, or confusion. God's command of secrecy is mercy. It protects both the bearer and the hearer. And yet, the temptation to speak is strong. The soul longs to share its vision, to prove that the encounter was real. But God asks for restraint, for silence is not emptiness, it is worship. In the keeping of a divine secret, the soul learns the language of heaven, where truth is not declared but lived, not shouted but sung through obedience. There is a sacred dignity in being trusted by God. To carry his secret is to walk a path of invisible glory, unseen by men but watched by angels. Imagine the quiet weight of that moment when the voice came, clear as a star's gleam upon still waters. Open it. The heart hesitates, for it knows that what is being asked cannot be undone. To open the thing of God is to expose one's soul to his light. There are no half measures in obedience. Once opened, it cannot be closed again. The message changes the one who receives it. It is not a task merely to understand, but to become. God's word, once opened within a man, alters his course forever. Perhaps the thing to be opened was not a letter, but a wound, not a vision, but a memory, not a mystery sealed in heaven, but something buried deep in the human heart. For God often hides his treasures in unlikely places. He asks us to open what we have sealed away, to confront the part of ourselves we dared not show even to him. And when we obey, when we open that inner chamber and stand before him with nothing hidden, he speaks his secret there. That is where transformation begins. Silence becomes the garment of revelation. The one who has heard God cannot return to ordinary speech, for ordinary words seem too fragile to contain such weight. The world may go on with its noise and laughter, its endless chatter and opinions, but the soul that has heard the whisper remains still. It walks through the days as one carrying a hidden light beneath the cloak, not for display, but for guidance. In this age, where everything is broadcast and nothing remains private, God's command, "Tell to no one," is a rebellion against vanity. It calls us back to reverence, to the holy art of keeping. We have learned to announce every emotion, to parade every thought, to trade secrets for applause. But God's treasures are not for applause. They are for transformation. To keep his secret is to resist the temptation to make sacred things common. It is to choose the invisible reward of intimacy with him over the fleeting satisfaction of being understood by men. There are truths that wither in the light of public curiosity. They must live first in darkness, like roots that grow unseen before the flower appears. To tell too soon is to abort the birth of meaning. So God says, "Tell to no one," not to imprison the truth, but to let it take root where no wind can touch it. There, in the silence, it grows into revelation. The saints of old understood this. They walked with secrets that could not be told, not because they were forbidden by law, but because they transcended language. What God reveals in the quiet, he confirms in time. The one who keeps his word hidden learns to trust that what begins in secrecy will one day speak through life itself. Every act, every breath, every quiet kindness becomes the revelation of what was once unspoken. The hidden word becomes incarnate in character. The world measures greatness by how loudly one can speak. Heaven measures it by how faithfully one can keep silent. The one who can hold a secret without pride, who can walk with God's whisper burning in his heart without seeking recognition. That is the one who understands divine friendship. For friendship with God is not a matter of shared words but of shared silence. He speaks and you keep. He entrusts and you guard. And in that keeping, your soul becomes the vessel of his mystery. There will come a moment, perhaps, when the secret God gave you will unfold itself. Not by your telling but by his timing. The world will see the fruit but not the seed, the glory, but not the hidden struggle that nurtured it. Then you will understand why he said, "Tell to no one." It was not to deprive, but to prepare. Every secret kept in faith becomes a revelation in its appointed season. Until that hour, the soul must live in quiet wonder. Every sunrise becomes a reminder that what was once dark can be brought to light without a sound. Every breath becomes a prayer of remembrance. The secret is not a burden. It is a bond. It marks you as one whom God has chosen to trust with something eternal. And though you may not speak it, you live it. Every gesture, every silence, every tear becomes a sentence in the wordless gospel he has written upon your heart. When God says, "Open it," he invites you to a moment of holy courage. When he adds, "Tell to no one," he crowns that courage with humility. Together, they form the essence of divine friendship: boldness in obedience, meekness in mystery. For the truest faith is not loud, not desperate to convince or explain. It is quiet, luminous, unshaken. And so, on this day of October 9th, 2025, the command still stands as a whisper to the faithful heart. Open it, tell to no one. It is both a call and a covenant, a moment when heaven entrusts earth with something unspeakable. You may not know why he chose you, or what the full meaning will be. But you know this: he has spoken. And in that knowing, you carry more than any words could ever tell. When God entrusts something to a human heart, it is not an accident. It is not because he has run out of stronger vessels or more worthy souls. It is because he delights in testing the depth of love through trust. To be chosen as the keeper of a heavenly secret is to be given a measure of divine confidence that cannot be earned by merit, only received by grace. God's voice does not fall into every ear, for many listen but few are truly still. But when he does speak, and when his word lands upon the trembling soil of a ready soul, it carries the full weight of heaven's expectation. Do not waste what I have entrusted to you. There is a holy gravity in that trust. It bends the heart to humility. It silences the impulse to boast or to prove. The moment one becomes aware that the infinite has spoken to the finite, that eternity has leaned close enough to breathe upon time, something in the soul shifts forever. It is as though the air itself becomes sacred, and one moves through the world with a reverence too deep for words. For what God reveals privately is not for the adornment of the ego. It is a test of fidelity. Can you hold what burns without showing it off for applause? Can you bear the unseen crown of his confidence without seeking earthly validation? Many fail this test not through malice, but through misunderstanding. They mistake the divine whisper for an announcement, the holy trust for a public assignment. They rush to speak before the seed has rooted, eager to prove that they have heard from God. But heaven's confidences are not meant to be paraded before unready eyes. The holy must remain hidden until the time of unveiling, and only the obedient heart knows the difference between delay and denial. When God entrusts you with something, he is not merely revealing information. He is revealing himself. The secret is not a message, it is an encounter, and every encounter with God demands stewardship. The more you are given, the more you must guard. He tests not your understanding but your capacity to carry his silence. The divine confidence is not measured in what you can explain, but in what you can endure without speaking. Consider how quiet the heavens are. The stars burn with a fire that could consume worlds, yet they do not speak. Their brilliance lies in their restraint. They shine, but they do not shout. They declare glory through presence, not through noise. So too does the soul entrusted with God's secret. Its light is seen, but its source remains veiled. That is the beauty of divine confidence. It teaches you to speak through being, not through telling. And yet, this keeping is not easy. It can feel like carrying thunder within your chest, knowing the world around you is deaf to the sound. There are nights when you will wonder why he gave it to you at all, when your silence feels like exile. But this, too, is part of the test. God gives secrets not only to reveal his nearness but to forge your faith. He hides himself to deepen your search. In the waiting, in the quiet ache of not telling, the soul learns obedience that no sermon could teach. It is one thing to believe in God when he blesses you in public. It is another to trust him when he speaks in secret and commands your silence. There is no applause in keeping quiet. There is no recognition in restraint. But heaven watches with affection. For every withheld word, every unspoken revelation, every act of humble secrecy adds another layer of glory to your soul. The silence becomes a sanctuary where his presence rests. And make no mistake, he trusts only those who have learned to be trustworthy in small things. If you cannot hold a whisper, you will never be given a wind. The quiet command, tell to no one, is not meant to suppress, it is meant to prepare. God hides his greatest works until they are strong enough to stand the gaze of men. Just as a child grows unseen in the womb, so his promises grow in the silence of your obedience. When the appointed hour comes, what was once concealed will speak for itself, alive, undeniable, radiant. The weight of divine confidence is not meant to crush, but to carve. It shapes the soul into a vessel capable of carrying light. Each day of silence hollows out more room for his glory. Each test of restraint becomes a deeper communion. You begin to realize that being trusted by God is itself the highest honor, greater than any recognition the world could offer. For what could compare to being the confidant of the Almighty? The angels are witnesses to this trust. They see the mortal heart trembling under the weight of eternity and marvel. For here is something they cannot experience, the fragile courage of a human being who hears the voice of God and keeps its secret out of love. This is faith in its purest form, unseen, uncelebrated, unwavering. And though the world may never know what you hold, it will see the change it makes in you. Your speech softens, your gaze steadies, your presence carries a peace that cannot be explained. The divine secret becomes the hidden fire by which your character is forged. You no longer need to speak of what you have heard, your very being bears witness. That is the essence of being trusted by God. It is not the possession of knowledge, but the transformation of the soul. The test is never about the secret itself. It is about what the keeping of it will make you become. Heaven's trust always carries purpose. God hides his mysteries not to conceal them forever, but to sanctify the one who bears them. And when the silence has done its work, when patience has ripened into wisdom, then, and only then, does he open the door for revelation. Until that moment, the faithful heart must walk quietly beneath the weight of divine confidence. Every heartbeat becomes a vow, every breath a reminder, you have been trusted by God. There is no higher call, no deeper responsibility, no greater love. For when the Creator of the stars confides in you and says, tell to no one, he is not withholding glory. He is inviting you into it. When a soul obeys the quiet voice of God and keeps what has been entrusted to it hidden from the world, something begins to happen within. A transformation so delicate and profound that few ever recognize it while it unfolds. Obedience to divine secrecy does not simply protect a mystery, it shapes the keeper of that mystery into something new. Silence, when joined to faith, becomes a forge where the human heart is refined into the likeness of its maker. What God withholds from the world, he uses to remake the one who listens. At first, The keeping of a secret may feel like loss. The mind protests against stillness, the heart aches to speak, the flesh desires recognition. But as the days pass in obedience, the silence begins to breathe. The soul discovers that the absence of noise is not emptiness but presence. God himself fills the quiet spaces left by restraint. The very act of keeping what he has said begins to draw you closer to him, for in guarding his secret, you learn to dwell where he dwells, in mystery. Every command of God is a mirror of his own nature. He too keeps secrets. He too hides wonders until their appointed hour. The galaxies, hidden for eons in the folds of space, the slow blossoming of a seed beneath the earth, the still, unseen growth of character in a faithful life. All of these echo the way God works in silence. When you obey his call to tell to no one, you are stepping into his rhythm. You are learning to walk in his hiddenness. You begin to think as he thinks, move as he moves, love as he loves quietly, patiently, without the need to be seen. Obedience to divine secrecy transforms the restless soul into one that rests in trust. Before, faith might have been an idea, now it becomes a living posture. You begin to realize that not everything holy needs to be understood to be true, nor spoken to be powerful. The silence becomes sacred because you are no longer waiting for validation. You are waiting for revelation. What once seemed like restraint now feels like communion. The secret no longer burns for expression, it burns for union. Transformation comes not by revelation alone, but by obedience to revelation. Many hear from God, but few are changed by what they hear. The difference lies in the quiet endurance of those who keep his word without alteration, without haste. They carry the hidden thing faithfully until God himself chooses to bring it forth. This waiting becomes a form of worship. Every unspoken word, every swallowed explanation, every prayer uttered only in the heart becomes incense rising before his throne. As this obedience deepens, so too does discernment. The one who can keep silence before men begins to hear more clearly from God. Heaven entrusts deeper things to the soul that has proved it will not waste what it is given. In time, you find that the silence has changed your very nature. Pride dissolves. The hunger for recognition fades. You begin to love obscurity, because you have tasted the sweetness of being known by God alone. The world no longer feels like the measure of truth. Its noise, its judgments, its applause all lose their power. You become free, not because you have escaped the world, but because you no longer need its approval. You carry within you a kingdom unseen, and that kingdom begins to shine quietly through your life. People notice something different, though they cannot name it. They sense peace that does not depend on circumstance, wisdom that does not come from books, strength that does not announce itself. The hidden word you obeyed becomes a living presence that shapes your every gesture. That is the mystery of divine transformation. It works from the inside out. God's secret, once kept faithfully, becomes the seed of his likeness within you. It humbles what is proud, steadies what is restless, heals what is broken. You begin to see how his silence toward you in certain seasons was never absence. It was formation. What he concealed was not punishment, it was preparation. Each withheld explanation became a tool of grace, carving away your need to control, to know, to be seen. To obey divine secrecy is to be weaned from the noise of self. The soul learns to breathe in rhythm with eternity. You start to speak less but mean more. You act slower but with greater purpose. The pace of heaven replaces the rush of earth. And when God does finally choose to reveal what he entrusted to you, it emerges not as a boast but as blessing. The message is no longer about you, it becomes an extension of him. In that moment, you realize that the transformation was the true miracle all along. The secret was never the end. It was the instrument. God used it to draw you deeper into himself, to teach you reverence, patience, and trust. The silence that once felt heavy has become holy. The command that once seemed restrictive now feels like a privilege. For you have discovered that obedience to divine secrecy is not the loss of expression, but the gaining of intimacy. There will always be those who cannot understand why you kept silent, why you did not share what you saw or heard. They will measure worth by visibility, by the noise of achievement. But the one who has walked in divine silence knows better. You understand that the greatest treasures of heaven are often hidden in earthen vessels, not displayed but lived. You have learned the language of stillness, and in that language, God speaks continually. The transformation that follows obedience does not fade when the secret is revealed. It becomes your permanent posture. You move through life as one who has heard a whisper too sacred to repeat, and that whisper continues to shape your being. It gives weight to your words, gentleness to your actions, and depth to your gaze. People may never know the secret you kept, but they will meet its fruit in you. That is how God's hidden work manifests, quietly, irresistibly, through the character it creates. And so, when he says again, "Tell to no one," you no longer resist. You no longer fear that your silence means insignificance. You have tasted what happens when obedience ripens into transformation. You know that to be trusted by God is to be changed by Him. And though no one else may know what He said, your life itself becomes the echo of His voice, steady and shining, a living secret walking the earth.